Evening. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're here to tell you about the recommended locally preferred alternative for the Candler Road Arterial Rapid Transit Project. I'm Greg Chillick from WSP. I'm joined by Katrina Highsmith Johnson from the collaborative firm, Jen Price from Sycamore Consulting, and from MARTA, we have Misakir Mengistu, Michael Rafshun, Greg Giuffrida, and Marcus Arnold. Katrina is going to give you an overview of tonight's session.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say thank you again for being here. We really appreciate your time and your commitment to the Candler Road ART project and your participation as well. Tonight's meeting will be from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Please use the Q&A section to submit your project-specific questions and or comments. We will address as many questions that we can get to in the time allotted. If you miss any details during tonight's presentation, it will be available on our project website. And the project website is listed here, and we will make sure that everyone who is participating this evening does get the link directly to the project website. Thank you again for your time, and I'm going to turn it back over to Greg.
Thank you, Katrina. I'll go back and give a little background on the project, the purpose and need, and where we started. The reason for the Candler Road ART project is to deliver arterial rapid transit service to DeKalb County's Candler Road corridor. This was a project that was promised to DeKalb County in MARTA's 15th Amendment, which was funding legislation where DeKalb County could select particular projects specifically to be put forward and advanced by MARTA. This Candler ART project advances the overall MARTA ART program by providing fast, frequent, and reliable transit service on proven high ridership corridors. Additionally, the project seeks to advance prosperity, connectivity, and equity for a more livable Atlanta region. This may be familiar to some of you who have been with us at our previous public meetings or focus groups, but for those who aren't familiar with Arterial Rapid Transit, or ART, it's a fast and frequent bus service located on existing high-density and mixed-use arterial corridors. It features shorter waiting times, where at peak times, a bus will be coming every 15 minutes or 4 times an hour. This will operate in mixed traffic with other vehicles, so ART does not feature exclusive bus lanes. To improve average speeds, ART will employ traffic signal priority at congested intersections, which allows the traffic signals to coordinate better with the bus's movements. Additionally, ART stops will feature enhanced amenities with shelters, trash receptacles, real-time information kiosks and screens, and occasionally bus racks and enhanced lighting. The history of the project begins back in 2019 with the DeKalb Transit Master Plan, where DeKalb County held a series of focus groups with members of the public and developed the plan for expanding transit within the county. The list of projects was then placed in the MARTA 15th Amendment, and DeKalb County advanced 2 ART projects and 2 transit hubs identified within the Transit Master Plan. The transit hubs, they're bus stations that are located away from the MARTA rail station. Throughout these past 2 years, 2022 and 2023, we've engaged in public and stakeholder meetings and conducted technical analysis with MARTA staff to examine the alternatives of the routes for Candler ART and come to the best locally preferred alternative. After we select the LPA, the locally preferred alternative, we will send this decision to the MARTA Board of Directors to consider the recommendation and have them vote to advance this to preliminary design. So where we started was a route that had a very well-defined trunk along Candler Road. This project will have its southern terminus at the GSU Perimeter College campus, or their Decatur campus, and is going to use Panthersville Road and Candler Road coming north to join with the MARTA rail system. At the intersection of Memorial Drive and Candler Road, we had a choice of two alternatives or two routes to pursue. One that would connect the ART to Decatur Station and one that would connect to Avondale Station. The Decatur alternative continues up Candler Road and South Candler Street in the city of Decatur, where the Avondale Station alternative uses Memorial Drive, South Columbia Drive, and Katie Kerr Drive to arrive at Avondale. Throughout the past year, we've had public engagement in the form of public meetings, which were held in October 2022. We had an in-person meeting at St. Philip's Church, and we had a virtual meeting like this one. We also conducted an online survey from the months of October 2022 to February 2023. We asked respondents their opinions on a number of questions related to the project, including specifically what their preference was for the Decatur versus Avondale alternative. We also conducted focus groups directly with members of the public. We met with seniors at the South DeKalb Senior Center. We spoke with the Calm Candler group, who has a goal of improving civic safety. And we spoke with a group of MARTA patrons at the New Life Church and Panthersville Road. Flat Shoals Road. We also conducted technical analysis within the MARTA organization with professionals at MARTA in bus planning and route planning. We had a routing and station location workshop on 2 occasions with MARTA staff in September and November of 2022. We all took a technical corridor tour and drove all of the routes in January of 2023. And we met directly with MARTA bus operators who drive buses that cover the routes, particularly bus 23, bus 114, and bus 15, bus 21, and bus 114. They provided their insights from their unique perspective. We took the information from our engagement with the technical staff and the public, and we examined the corridors, assessing them for multiple categories. We looked at ridership potential. We looked at the speed and reliability of each route. We looked at overall costs. We considered the feedback that we heard from our stakeholders and the members of the public that we met with. We looked at how each route alternative integrated with long-range plans, both MARTA and DeKalb County. We considered equity impacts on vulnerable populations. We also examined each route for their economic development potential. This is a summary of the scoring after our evaluations were concluded. As you can see, the Avondale Station alternative scored the highest and is being selected as the locally preferred alternative. The reasons are the Avondale Station alternative delivers a faster and more reliable trip. It serves more riders than the Decatur alternative, and it has the potential to provide transit options to a higher share of vulnerable populations. Additionally, the Avondale Station alternative integrates better with the long-range plans of MARTA and DeKalb County and has a greater potential to encourage economic development. Digging into the results, the Decatur Station alternative did score higher than Avondale, with lower overall capital cost and lower annual operations and maintenance costs. A large reason for this is the Decatur Station alternative is more than 1 mile shorter than the Avondale alternative. The results of the online survey from the 186 respondents who answered the question, they did select Decatur as their preferred alternative. However, in the other categories, Avondale Station scored higher. It was determined to have a higher projected annual ridership and generate more fare revenue. It also faces less peak hour congestion that could interrupt the trip schedule. It travels on roads with more multi-lane miles, and there are no at-grade rail crossings in the Avondale alternative. Additionally, the Avondale alternative does serve a higher percentage of vulnerable populations. This is a summary of the highlights of what the Avondale alternative brings to the Candler Road ART project. It's projected to serve more than 827,000 annual riders, which is a 19% increase over the same local bus routes, which are already providing service. Average speed along the corridor is nearly 15 miles per hour, which may not seem that high, but that includes the time needed for the bus to stop and pick up passengers. And this 15 or 14.8 miles per hour speed is 29% faster than the average speed of the local buses. The estimated capital cost to build all of the infrastructure is $41.7 million. And on an annual basis, MARTA expects to spend $1.6 million in operations and maintenance costs. In our stakeholder outreach, we had 366 total responses to the survey, and we had 6 stakeholder meetings. We had the focus group meetings. We also met with officials and municipal officials, elected officials who all have a stake in the project. The Avondale alternative is called out specifically in the 2019 DeKalb Transit Master Plan, where the Decatur alternative is not. Along the Avondale corridor, the population is 29% low income and 50% people of color. These percentages are higher for the Avondale alternative than for the Decatur alternative. And for economic development potential, there is more than 10,000 feet, linear feet of commercially zoned frontage along the route that could be potentially redeveloped. Additionally, there's more overall transit-oriented development potential than Decatur, primarily due to the fact that downtown Decatur is mostly completely built, whereas along Memorial Drive, South Columbia Drive, and in the vicinity of Avondale Station, there are more alternatives for development. The project timeline is shown here. We're now at the end of the alternatives analysis process on the left side of the screen. We're at the chevron, the yellow chevron, which is the locally preferred alternative announcement here, spring of 2023. And our next steps are to enter the design and delivery phase. We're going to bring the project to a 30% engineering design, conduct any necessary environmental studies, continue and bring this to a final 100% design, and then go into procurement for construction services, and finally to construct the project. So this concludes the presentation of the Avondale selection of the locally preferred alternative. We're now going to have our discussion. We'll be able to answer questions. If you have additional questions after this session concludes, you can reach out to Misakir Mengistu. He's MARTA's project manager for the Candler ART, and his contact information is shown on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. We have a couple of advanced questions that we're going to go through, and we would love to hear from you and give this opportunity if you guys have any additional questions. But the first question is, the study looked at two north terminus locations, Decatur and Avondale. Is it faster to connect Candler to Kensington Station? It has fewer traffic lights, higher speed regional route, less congestion than Katy Kerr. Why not consider Kensington the terminus? Greg?
There are a couple of reasons why Kensington was not part of the analysis. Firstly, Kensington was never considered when the project was first imagined and brought forth in the DeKalb Transit Master Plan. Secondly, through our public outreach, our survey, and our focus groups, we came to understand that many or most of the passengers who currently ride local service to the Blue Line MARTA stations, their ultimate destination is somewhere along the rail line to the west, either to connect to the Red and Gold Line stations, to 5 Points. But typically the vast majority of passengers, they want to go west after they join the Blue Line. And Kensington puts them farther away from their final destination.
Thank you. Second question. What is the exact route and the impact of mobility riders? And I know you kind of touched on the route somewhat and the impact on mobility riders.
So yeah, the exact route, I'll give a brief review. It's the Candler Road trunk up until the intersection of Memorial Drive and Candler. Then it turns onto Memorial Drive going east until it gets to Belvedere Plaza, at which point it turns to South Columbia Drive. Finally, it uses Katy Kerr Drive and Arcadia Avenue to access Avondale Station. As to the impacts on mobility, the ART is an addition to the MARTA transit service. It will not displace any current service provided by MARTA Mobility, which is a separate service. The ART buses will be equipped with the same amenities and same assistances for ADA passengers that regular MARTA buses have. So they'll have the same chair lifts and designated areas on the bus for ADA passengers.
Thank you. So we are looking for some additional questions. I know that we have a question in the chat here. Just want to make sure. Well, we just have a comment. Thanks for listening to comments during the public outreach. Good luck with the project. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Mr. Akar. Are there any additional questions that we can answer this evening?
I think a new one came in via chat.
Yes, I see from Sunny Anderson. Oh, wait, we are finding out tonight what station it is. Greg? Quick.
Yes, that is correct. So the locally preferred alternative selection was the end of the process of selecting which station this bus service will terminate at. And that's Avondale.
Thank you. Does the bus travel to Panthersville?
Yes, the bus's final destination as it's proceeding south is the Georgia State University Decatur campus at Panthersville. If you need service farther south than the campus, the ART is not going to extend any farther south, but there are local bus routes in place. And additionally, I do want to make note that MARTA has plans to build the South DeKalb Transit Hub at the location of the gallery at South DeKalb Mall. And there'll be opportunities for bus routes that serve Panthersville to connect to the ART at the South DeKalb Transit Hub.
Thank you. Will the presentation be sent out to the attendees? And I can answer that one. Yes, the presentation will be available on our project website within 24 to 48 hours. So please feel free to check back, but we'll also make sure that we send out some communication and correspondence to all of our attendees. Okay, Deidre, glad your question was answered. Thank you. We have another question that just came in. There's a lot of development around Kensington. Are there similar plans for Candler or some sort of collaboration with the county around South DeKalb Mall? Greg?
Well, one of our criteria when we evaluated the routes was the economic development potential of the route. That's very important for MARTA, and as MARTA advances more projects, that'll continue to be a consideration. So we're always hopeful that additional transit opportunities will be a catalyst for additional development. I can also tell you that the elected officials in DeKalb County are very involved in the Candler Road ART project. We've been briefing them on a regular basis, and they are including it in plans they have to encourage development up along the Candler Road corridor. So once we get this bus service running, MARTA will be able to work in conjunction with the leadership in DeKalb County to continue to promote economic development.
Thank you. Next question. Has it been decided where the stops will be yet? Greg?
Yes. Yes, we have a roster of stops we've selected. We're going to bring the 30% design to a completion with the stops that we have selected. I do want to say that as the project moves from a 30% design to 100% design, there may be an examination of certain stop locations which bring new information to that may cause the stop locations to be adjusted in that next phase of the project.
Thank you. Currently, no more questions. Oh, we just got another one that just came in. Will the local 15 bus route still continue, or will ART service replace this service, excuse me, entirely? If the bus route continues, will it terminate at Decatur Station? Greg?
Thank you for the question, Faye. That is an excellent question. That's part of our next steps, is to determine how best to serve the remaining portion of South Candler Street and Candler Road and give them the same level of service as the ART service goes in a different direction. There are a number of options on the table that involve either a continuation of the local 15 bus service in a different configuration, or to cover the same area using a variation of other bus routes in the proximity.
Greg, just to add, we are coordinating with the service planning team. So that's part of the next work that we achieve.
Thank you, Ms. Akir.
Currently, no additional questions. Please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box if you have not done so already. I know some people have come in a little bit after the presentation, so if you do have any questions, we are here to answer them. Again, the presentation will be available on our project website following our meeting. So within about 24 to 48 hours, you'll be able to access the presentation.
Katrina, I believe we had one advanced question that we haven't addressed yet.
Okay.
And I think it's because the question seemed not to be specific to this project. There was a question that was provided to us about heavy rail.
Oh.
And heavy rail is not an aspect of the Candler Road ART project. And we understand how there could be some confusion because MARTA is very active in DeKalb County. There are many projects that we're sending out advertising for, that we want public participation. We want to hear from you. One of those is the South DeKalb Transit Initiative, which is examining options for transit along the I-20 corridor. And that project is considering, among many options, heavy rail is one of those options. So if you'd like to learn more or participate more in the South DeKalb Transit Initiative, there will be more public meetings and outreach occurring in the month of June.
Okay.
Funding question. So question
Okay.
is
I
that
think we have another question that just came in. Is this funded already, not waiting on a DeKalb SPLOST, right? Greg?
that is correct. There is no requirement for a DeKalb SPLOST for this project to advance. I believe the funding was secured with the 15th Amendment legislation. And currently the project will be funded locally. And that's in contrast with, to be more specific, MARTA is not seeking federal funding to bring this project forward.
Deetra's comment, glad to hear of the heavy rail consideration for South DeKalb. Thanks for your comment, Deetra. So again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop a question in our Q&A box, and we'll be happy to answer them. I know we're sitting here and we don't have any questions, which is a good thing. So I guess our presentation kind of, described everything that we're doing with this project. I just want to, thank you again for your time. And Greg, if there's any next steps, maybe we can describe what they look like for our attendees before we conclude.
Certainly.
And then we have a question that just came in, but go ahead.
Okay, the question is, when is project completion? And the current trajectory, we're looking towards being able to deliver the project by 2025. So, thank you for the comment, Zachary. Last thoughts or where we go from here. Now that we've been able to announce our selection of the locally preferred alternative, we're going to bring this Avondale selection to a subcommittee of the MARTA Board of Directors at a meeting next week and put it forward for their approval. Assuming that approval is forthcoming, we'll complete the 30% design and then move into a more active design and procurement phase of the project, which will bring us to construction.
Okay, I have one second. I have a question from Ellen Katz. Ellen, please go ahead with your question. You're off of mute. If you can unmute yourself. Ellen, can you hear us? Because if so, you can ask your question. If not, we'll move on to the next question. Any road? Oh, go ahead, Ellen.
I'm sorry, I tried to unmute and they didn't. How does the schedule for the ART part of the project tie in with the schedule, if there is one, for the transit hub at the Galleria?
Very good question. They are running on two similar and parallel tracks. However, there's a good chance that they won't be completed at the same time. So it's very difficult to say whether South DeKalb Transit Hub will be constructed before Candler. I expect that Candler ART will be ready to initiate service before the transit hub is completed, mainly because there's more construction, more actual infrastructure to build for the transit hub. In that case, the stop, which would be represented by the transit hub, would need to be temporarily relocated onto Candler Road until the transit hub construction is completed.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
My pleasure.
We have another question in the chat, excuse me, in the Q&A box. Any road needed, or will this be mixed traffic? Right.
This will be mixed traffic. The project does not include either the taking of right of way or taking any lanes or expanding right of way. So you won't see any road construction. This will primarily be stop construction.
Okay. Apparently that's our last question. Are there any additional questions? I don't think we have any additional questions, Greg.
Okay. Well, we appreciate everybody's attendance tonight. We thank you for your thoughtful and informative questions. We hope we've answered all the questions you have. If you haven't had your question answered, or if you find later that there was some piece of information that you were seeking, you can reach out. You can send an email to Ms. Akir at the contact here. The website is candler@itsmarta.com for emailed questions. And those go to everybody on the panel. So any one of us will have the opportunity to respond. You can also go to the project website where there are other options to get in touch with us, as well as up-to-date project information.
Okay.
Thank you, Ellen. And thanks to everybody who joined us.
All right. Well, have a good night, everyone.